someone has finished their S6, they're like, I want 3 million. Yeah.
For what?
Exactly. So there's a lot of knowledge that really needs to be put out there. The narrative needs to change. Because even a lady who's, you know, selling her mangoes and all that, or tomatoes, and she has customers. Do you know that even it doesn't have to be an app, because people now have turned tech as an app.
Yes, everyone has an app.
As long as you're using your phone, that's technology. Do your customers know your phone number? If the lady you've been supplying, you know, God forbid, had an accident and she can't come, can she call you and arrange for a border, and she sends a border to come and pick up to me? It's if I tell people, if someone asks me, why do you love technology so much? I said, I'm a person who loves efficiency. I hate to do things that are easily done in a hard way. I was telling someone, I need an iRobot. Anybody want to listen? Christmas present? There's this iRobot thing that cleans your floors. It mops. You just put it there, it charges and just goes, you know, cleaning the house. And you can program it, which bedroom you can be at your friend. Like, I'm like,
that's what you need.
Yeah, I need that. Because I like really clean environment. Like, my friends always call me borderline crazy. So I'm like, the amount of work I could do when I just take that hour out of my day. And that
can
thing
do
is
so
just,
much more with your time,
Yes,
right?
I mean, battery runs out, it goes, it charges itself, and then comes back and starts cleaning from where I'm like, efficiency, yeah!
You said that one of your biggest, is it a fear or phobia, is ignorance?
Yes.
Like you.
Oh my God. I think it also comes, you know, when you live in different countries and you have to learn different cultures, because some people can be like, do you know your history? I'm like, honey, I've lived in, like, I was taught South African history, I was taught European history, I was taught all kinds of history. And so I found myself always having to catch up in conversation. Let me give you an example. When I moved to London, I was in my early 20s. And coming from here, I think the talk at that time was deviate.
Oh, yeah, people used to hang out.
Yes, and the new cinema. And that was the talk. Hey, have you seen Pioneer more than, you know? And I go, and people, my age group, were talking mortgages. They're like, hey, you guys, I had my friend and, you know, her boyfriend, and he had a group of friends, so we'd meet with them all the time. And many of them were young British boys. And they'd be like, no, Halifax has a better interest rate when you look at the mortgage of 25 years. I was like, what is mortgage? Who is mortgage? And I was like, I couldn't say a word.
You're like, I have no idea what they're talking about.
Idea what they're talking about. And the same thing, you come back home, now you're used to conversations like that, and the conversation has changed. And you know, so that fear of ignorance is like you are amongst people and you just can't say anything.
You're quiet.
And you're listening and it just doesn't make sense. So that feeling, and I was saying, like, you know, watching Bridget Jones' Diary when she went to an event and all these guys in their bow ties, and she just forced herself, she's like, let me join a conversation, and she finds all these rich men and they're laughing and she joins in, and they say, so what do you think about the, you know? And she's like, do you know where the bathroom is? And I said, I never want to be in that place.
I don't want to be that person.
I don't want to be that person. Because it was a comedy, but I'd experienced it where really you have nothing to contribute. You can't even try.
You know, just yesterday, I had this conversation with my daughters. I told them, you must try. You don't have to know everything, but try to know a little bit about everything.
Yes.
So depending on where you go, who you meet, you can build a conversation and have some understanding. And then you have a basis also to learn more, the foundation. Because people are like, I'm not interested in that.
No,
and
that's
then,
not interested.
that's like a war.
Yeah. But I also, the older I got, I also realized that it's okay not to know everything.
No, you
it's
don't have,
okay to
I don't think
ask.
anyone can know everything.
Yes, exactly. But you know, we also, Uganda, we have this thing. Oh, someone I know, malo. Like just because you don't know something, oh, you're backward, you're ignorant, you don't know. So then you just get stuck in that place. Let me not expose my ignorance. But I realized like I'd go and someone's like, oh, you're from Uganda. Tell me about that. I don't know where it is, and I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. Just get the information that you need. Because the worst thing is I should have been able to be like, guys, like, okay, I'm like new. I don't understand what mortgage or who mortgage is. What's that about? But at that time, I didn't have the confidence to do that.
Yeah. But also information is really available too.
It is, nowadays, it really is. There's no excuse. Actually, my friend Florence, she says like, look, if I'm in the office and someone walks up to me and says, what does this mean? That she just is like, literally.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't do that.
It's inexcusable.
Yeah, you can't do that right
I mean,
now.
it's good to ask, don't get us wrong. But first, make an effort on your part.
That's the key.
I mean, it's like there are people you hand documents and everything is on that document, but they will still ask you because they cannot take the time to read and look for it.
Point made.
So, venting session now. Yes, there's no excuse. If you don't know, find out. Or try to.
Try to. Because there's so... And I told my mom the other day, like, you're so lucky. When I was in school, there was no YouTube. Because you think I refused to do uni? If I was a child in this COVID time, and you're telling me when school's up, I'll be like, ma'am, just give me all that tuition, because it's going to be for data. Because I'm about to have some YouTube classes up in here. Simply because I'm like, look, if I don't... I've attended all kinds of classes, MIT... Harvard, they're all online, and I'm like, the thing about YouTube, like if one teacher doesn't make sense, be it you don't click their accent or what, it is so easy to just jump onto someone else who clarifies something. Like for me, physics was like a foreign language to me in school. I didn't understand a thing. But recently my friends and I really started getting interested in quantum physics, and it is so much fun. I'm like, you know what? I think if I was still in school and I would be a physician right now, a physicist rather, because it made so much sense when I'm watching it. I mean, you choose your level. You can have the really hard teachers, or you can get a cartoon to break it down for you.
Yeah.
So like YouTube for me is such a go-to for information. You want to know about a place. Canadian prairies, we knew Canadian prairies were just on chalkboard like this, but right now you can zoom into anything. Yeah.
How has COVID been for you?
Do you know, just before COVID, I was like, right, I have not done much with coding in heels. This year I'm gonna go big or go home.
Okay.
I looked at myself, I was like, in February I'm like, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna try and meet with this person. And COVID took me home. Found myself at home for 5 months. Learning. Actually, I used my time in COVID to really get interested in interior design.
Okay.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time understanding interior design. Because that's the thing with me. I don't know how to be that one. But like, my mom sometimes, every New Year, she's like, so... what are you going to be this year now? An artist, because I was really into art and interior design, and I did all these art things. She's like, oh, so this year we have the artist. What are we having next year?
That's really cool though.
Yeah, I don't feel limited. I don't feel like this is the path.
And you love to learn.
I love to learn. It's just one of those things. I'm always, that's why I tell you, I'm always like, how do they do that? How? And especially like when you're looking at those interior design things, and you're looking on Facebook and the thing like 300,000. I'm like, nah. 300,000. I'm like, if I get myself a spray paint, which is 15,000, and I get someone to carve this thing out for me at 20,000, I can replicate this. So actually, my friends come to my house and I'm like, guys, they're like, where'd you get this? I'm like, I didn't buy these things.
Yeah, but not everyone can be like you.
I know.
But I have a friend who's the same. She's like, when it comes to wrought iron, most people here see the same things.
Yes.
Only you need to just give them the design.
Exactly.
What you want, give it to them, explain, and
that's what I say. Like, we hate venturing out. Like I say, like even getting a bed is so hard for me because if you're driving in Nansana to Zambia to enter, excuse me, it's all the same bed.
Yes, the
I'm
same
like,
ones. And any person
rods,
tries something new,
rods,
everyone else tries the
exactly.
same.
And I'm like, do you know there's Japanese beds? Like there's all kinds of beds, but we're stuck. I tell my friends, look here, if any of you want to give me a present and you bring those railed beds, I will put it right back on your pickup truck and send it to your house.
So that means you're the kind of person who hates hearing, that's how we do it.
Oh my God, I can't.
That's how things
That's
are.
how things have always been, and that's I can't. I'll just be like, well, it was lovely to meet you. Really, it was.
Okay.
I can't.
So before you were sent home for 5 months, were you like incredibly busy at that point, or did you have like a bit of a break
No,
at the beginning
actually,
of the
what
year?
happened? I had a very hectic last 3 months of the year, like October to December
2019.
2019. I was in the U.S. for 5 weeks, and I visited like 6 states in those 5 weeks. So I was on a plane every 3 to 4 days. Then I got back here, and I think I was just so exhausted, and I failed to get back. And then that was around mid-November. And so those 3 weeks, I wasn't feeling well. I don't know if it was jet lag and then I got H. pylori. H. pylori is some ulcer-causing bacteria. Many people haven't got it, but it's the worst thing. People who've experienced it are like, that thing is just horrible. Like,
Oh my gosh.
so I was feeling nausea. I was just not feeling myself, my stomach. So, and on top of that not being enough, the medication is like they give you these antibiotics that come in kits, like in these foils, and you have to take like 3 packs every day, and like for 2 or 3 weeks, and the nausea. And so I got that like 3 days before I had to travel to Egypt. So then I did travel to Egypt, but I was
You
on
were
the
sick.
very sick. My mom was like, Angie, you can't go. I was like, I can't cancel. And so I got there. That's a whole story. Like I was put in a lavish villa away from the hotel. You know, I needed a card, but I had to call them and say, I can't stay in the villa. I need to be in the hotel because I'm very, very sick, and I need attention just in case. So came back like just before Christmas. I was sick probably all the way to the end of Jan. So that's what I was telling you in Feb. I was like, yep,
I'm back.
let's do it. And they're like, yeah, do it in the house. So that's how I ended up in the house.
Okay.
So I did a lot of resting and recuperating. I lost about 10 kilos from that alone. So COVID, I used it as a time of just taking it in and just preparing for maybe the coming year, because I was recuperating. So I'd say it was more like rest, and I didn't spend it like, oh, is Connie Hill's going to be alive by the time COVID ends? Oh my goodness, will people still be calling me? Are we dead? That's why I think I was focused more on the artistic things, and they kept me going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have things started to pick up for you though? Are there any engagements coming up, or, I mean,
To be honest, after I really, really want to take December off, hopefully. And I think it's still a bit slow, because remember, a lot of my work had to do with crowds and conferences and things like that. So I'm also in the debate of, should I
has that shifted to online though?
Yeah, I could. I've been on Zoom, definitely. I've held stuff on Zoom, so I cannot say that. And of course, I was doing consultancy, of course, with the government as well, because I was on the task force, on the national task force for 4IR.
Okay.
So I was busy. So even during COVID, I was working, and I'm also doing consultancy for another tech company. So actually, I was working during COVID, just that it was at home.
At home, just
Yeah.
not traveling.
No,
and,
not traveling.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what about dating? Are you dating?
That's I'm not married. They say when they ask you, are you single? You just say, I'm not married. That's all.
That's a very ambiguous answer, but
Yes.
okay. Okay. So, I mean, I love that you talk about, there's so much more people don't understand about tech. And yes, for the longest time, women are like, not for me, not for me, not for me. What's the one message? Before I get to that, just tell me about that ring, because you have a
Oh my
ring.
God, I'll give you the shallow story. The shallow, really shallow story. No, actually what happened was, when the first time that I went to London actually was my S6 vac, before I went the second time for my education. And so yeah, I had some pocket money, and I think that was the first time where I made some decent money. And I remember before, when I just arrived, I used to walk through the mall and just look at things and just be so envious and walk in and try clothes and everything. But I'm a person who loves jewelry. And when I say jewelry, I prefer, like, if it comes to rings and chains, I prefer the real deal, if I can say it. I want, like, if it's
want the
silver,
pure silver,
I want
the pure
silver,
gold.
the pure gold, and I don't want something that's, by the time I leave the interview, it's like copper. So and they put this ring, like, right in the display, and you know how those guys advertise, and so the lights were, and I don't know, that ring just spoke out to me, and I was like, you know what? The day my account hits a certain amount of money, I'm gonna gift myself that thing, because I would have earned it. And then when I bought it, then I added another, what should I call it? Some other tie to it.
Okay.
But then I won't go into that. But that's
So it's very special
yes.
to you.
Yes.
You wear it all the time.
Yeah, it's never gone off my body, except when someone was like, let me try your ring, and then they went home. And so I was in the bathroom like, oh my God, oh Jesus, take the wheel. I'm like, did you go? She's like, oh yeah. I'm like, where do you stay?
I want my ring.
Yes.
It's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, but it's never left me for probably about, 20 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So your advice to young women,
Not
not just young people, because you speak up for not
Yeah.
just young women, but the youth as well.
I think the reality is, and more so now because of COVID. I used to give scenarios when I used to train. I used to give the scenarios of what's happened today. I used to be like, guys, do you know that there could be a time when you can't move, or you need something and you're not able to go into town to get it? You need to familiarize yourself with things like Gmail, Skype, and then be like, I'm like, look, when you're asking for an administrative job today, it's not about take this letter to the post office. Like, your boss is going to tell you, I need you to schedule these Zoom meetings, make sure you send the password and the code to everyone, set it in the Google Calendar. These are the things that you need to learn today. And people are like, ha, sounds cute, but... So my advice is, like, 2-3 years ago, there was that time to catch up, but right now it's late. You need to familiarize yourself with the phone. I'm not even telling people go buy a computer. For me, my phone does everything.
Me
Like
too.
like the consultation company I'm working for, my boss, Augustus, is always arguing with me, because he's always like, I'm like, which this software are you using? Which tab are we on? He's like, Angie, are you on the laptop or the phone? I'm like, okay, I'm on the phone. Because I hate using the laptop, because for a while I worked without it. And I was using my phone. So I learned to do my PowerPoint presentations on my phone, my Excel charts, everything. I can do everything on my phone. So when someone's like, get the laptop, I'm like,
That is, oh my God, that
We
is so
have
true,
to.
because people want to buy expensive phones for the camera.
yes, for the camera and,
I'm like,
and
do
just
you
the
know
name.
what else you can do? Oh
Yes,
yeah, just
the
because
name,
you
I
have an
hold this.
expensive phone.
But like, if they tell me right now, Angie, we need a presentation, we need this document also in PDF, can you send them in 3 hours? I can just grab myself a cup of tea, get my phone, and begin. Because everything is stored on the cloud. Whatever information I need, any critical information, be it passport information, be it what, everything is on cloud. So
you can
in this
access
day and
everything you
age,
need.
Yeah, if I'm your boss today, you cannot begin to tell me, Angie, by the time you sent that email, I was home. I'm like, so what happened? You didn't have data? That's my only question. Didn't you have data? That's it. And people got stuck, when, especially like people who, because the lockdown happened so quickly, And people were used to saving on your machine, save on C drive or whatever. Huh? And they got home and they could not work because for them, they couldn't reconcile that thing could be connected with their work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're right. So use what you have.
Yeah, use what you have. You don't need a laptop. You don't, like I'm telling you, I use this phone for all my work. That laptop, like when I take it out, I'm like, seriously. Because I'm like, it's so bulky and no, you need to come with your laptop. Of course, I need to get something smaller, but I'm like, look, a pad, as long as I can do this, even now typing is hard because Excel, my friends are like, because I'm like really, what's the word? You'll get the word, but like my budgets, like my monthly budgets, I have an Excel sheet for everything. So when we're shopping and she's like, what are you doing? I'm like, no, I'm crossing this out. And it's like, it's so small. And I'm like, I can't do without it, you know? It's my data. If I need to compare how my expenditure was from last year to this year, this is what I use. Yeah. So I tell people, familiarize yourself with that phone of yours, all those apps. You have like 15 apps on there and you're using 3, Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. So I say let people think of all the possibilities. Yeah. Because even the jobs, everything has changed. It's all changed. Yeah.
And if you don't come up with quick solutions, I mean,
today you need to be a problem solver. Look, I mean, even the information you've studied, like, you know, my cousin during lockdown, she was studying for exams, and I saw her and she was cramming, and I told her, oh, what are you doing? She's like, no, I'm trying to remember the stuff. I'm like, what's the topic? She's like, oh, the South African Xhosa and Sun. And I'm like, so what about them? Oh, we're cramming for what the difference between the Xhosa and the Sun was. And I'm like, you know, history is great, but the reality is, I told you, take an hour out and study that because you need it to pass, but an hour a day, approach me and ask me to help you with the irrelevant things of today. Because unless you're really, really planning to be a historian, the Xhosa and the Sun may not be applicable
in your life.
In the coming world. Yeah. So I tell people, I say, let them get themselves educated because I cannot sit here and say don't because it's also built me up. But you have to do it side by side, side by side.
Wow. Angie, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
For sitting down with me. I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
I hope I've not taken too
No, it was awesome. It was awesome. Thank you.